Yo guys, what is going on? It's your boy JamesTheAce. Welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a gear and deck setup for the Exalted myth, for Exalted myth PvP in specific. So I know right off the bat, a lot of you are wondering, James, dude, where were you at the end of last week when Test Run popped, dude? Everyone was making content like I go on your channel and I don't see a lick of Test Run content, and to that, I want to say that for the entire end of the week portion where Test Run was live, I think it was live for about like 3 days if you include the day that it actually popped, which was like Wednesday afternoon, I was not able to patch in Test Run at all. So I could not make a lick of Test Run content. And I do want to make Test Run content, but I tried everything that the launcher recommended I do, and I still could not get in. However, I had to go as far as to log on the actual forums of Wiz to find my answer, and the answer was oddly enough to delete, or I'm sorry, rather uninstall the Live Realm launcher. Like, just completely uninstall the Live Realm of Wiz. And when I found that out, and I did it, and it actually worked, and I was super mad because instead of actually fixing that problem, they just recommended on the forums that that's just what you have to do, and that's just what? That was just, all things considered, that is so lazy and just bad. I'm sorry, but if for me to play on Test Realm, you're telling me that I have to uninstall the main game? Listen, all right, anyways, level 100 PvP I think is going to be the new wave. And aside from me saying that over and over again in most of my videos, I want to tell you guys why. So obviously we know that in Test Realm right now, it's closed right now, but in Test Realm, crit and block has returned to a rating. It is no longer a percent. So 300 block is actually meta again. It's not like 35% if you're over level 100, like it was when Polaris came out, right? Or the percent crit and block update came out years and years ago. It's now back to a rating. So if you have more block than someone has crit, chances are they are actually never going to crit on you, period. And if they do, block now serves a second purpose. As we also know, crit is going back to ×2, and the more block you have, it is actually going to knock down that ×2 depending on how much block you have. So if you have a crap ton of block and the opponent doesn't really have a lot of crit, but they do manage to get a crit off and they do land on you, regardless of you having a lot of block, it's not going to do that much damage considering that you have a lot of block. Whereas if they didn't have a lot of crit, or if they did have a lot of crit and you had no block, it would do a considerable amount of damage because there would be no block stat negating the ×2 damage. So you would just take ×2 to the face, and honestly at that point you should probably just flee because that's a lot of damage depending on what spell you just got hit with, fam. So but with all that being said, level 60 might be in trouble. I don't know, I have to see how much base block first of all level 60 gets, and how much block can a level 60 rock and still not take a crap ton of damage from a ×2 crit? These are all questions that I need to know before entering in any more level 60 PvP. So do expect some laboratory work type videos where I try to find out if level 60 is still going to be viable after update. Stay tuned for those videos coming very, very soon, because I did fix my Test Run launcher. Ridiculous, man. Anyways, right, the gear index setup for level 100 myth. So right, this is going to be kind of awkward because obviously, as we know, block is now a thing. So this type of block right here would never rock after update, and we're talking about max 2.5 weeks before Caramel comes to live. So honestly, what I'm going to do, right, I'm going to show you guys the meta stats that I'm going to have to rock after update comes to Live Realm, because the pre-meta stats are going to be very confusing, and if anyone tries to run those after update, you're probably going to get crit on, and I mean, it's not going to be a good day, right? So let's go over the after patch meta stats. So these stats are going to be 111 damage, 50 resist across the board, 26 accuracy, 5.1k health, 393 crit, which is kind of a lot for Myth if you think about it, 286 block, which I don't have block jewels, which those might become meta, and I also don't have block on my pet, which block pets might actually, believe it or not, start coming back, and then power pip is still perfect. So the gear that you're going to have to rock so that you can yield these stats is ultimately going to be the Bound Spirit cards. These are the, or I should say this is the crafted deck from Darkmoor. I believe you have to have completed the Avalon crafting quest to be able to craft this deck. Not that hard. I think the hardest crafting quest that you have to do is like Zafaria. That one is a pain in the butt, but regardless, this is going to be the best deck in question for level 100, unless you go to 105, in which case the best deck would have to be the Baba Yaga deck, but you have to have a high level on your account that has access to Polaris, and I'm pretty sure you can't pour it in that dungeon. So if you don't have a 110 plus, just craft the Darkmoor deck. Honestly, I wouldn't suggest going to level 105 period. The Dirk of Dimwood Vale is going to be dropped from Yevgeny. That is the first boss within Castle Darkmoor. The Duelist Daredevil ring is obviously going to be the level 100 arena tickets ring. If you are trying to do tournaments in the meantime to try to get this ring, the only substitute that I have to suggest running is going to be the Alpha and Omega ring, and this drops from the secret boss within Mount Olympus, the Amber farming boss. So farm him until you get this ring. It's a super common drop, shouldn't take you more than like 10 runs, honestly. If you have like a max level hitter like a Storm or a Fire, honestly, yeah, it shouldn't take you more than like 10 runs. It's super quick, very common drop. Next up we have the Mali set. So the only thing that I have to say about the Mali set is that one, the alternate one-shot dungeon robe, because I think that's the only thing that like you might want to run. The Crocopatra hat, in my opinion, is just not better, but I was able to obtain the one-shot Bone Smasher Robe of Dreams. The only way that I would run this is if I socketed an extra accuracy on my deck or theme. Other than that, the robe, in my opinion, is not going to be better than Mali robe. But honestly, it is up to you. You gain an extra damage, you get an extra resist, you lose a little bit of power pip, you gain a little bit of extra health. But again, ultimately, it's kind of up to you. It's not really that much of a buff at the end of the day. I am still going to be running Mali robe, but that is the only other thing that I have to say about the Mali set. But honestly, every school is pretty much going to be running some variation of Malistaire gear, so you do have to farm Darkmoor after you hit level 100. Other than that, the boots, some people in this meta, and I hope they don't continue to do this after update, because it's just not going to be viable at all. But the reason why people are doing this, and what they're doing, is they're running the Gulcher's Horde pack boots, which give more crit, more damage, more resist. You lose Pierce, which is not good, so you actually lose damage overall, period. People are running those boots because they give some better stats, but they give crit instead of block. And as we know, block update is right around the corner, and if you don't have good block, you are going to get crit on, and it is going to do a lot of damage. ×2 crit is going to eat through you. So please do me a favor, stop running Gulcher's Horde boots and run Mali boots, please. All right, cool. Moving on. So yeah, that's just full Mali gear. The pet is honestly going to have to be some variation of like triple damage proof something, or it's going to have to be like double damage, double resist, block. Because I like, again, block meta is coming back. You could honestly run Make Has Conviction on your pet and it would still be meta. Instead of like Reliquary here. That would actually be like super big brain. If like, depending on that cast rate, dude, you wouldn't even have to stun block. That's crazy. But yeah, the pet is kind of subjective. So the Relic of the Shadow Palace is going to be the new best amulet for Myth, in my opinion. If you have Amulet of Divine, then I would not farm Morganth. I stopped at Solar Arc. I'm not sure if I already said that, but I actually stopped at Solar Arc instead of going all the way to Morganth because I didn't want to get over leveled. But the reason why I believe that the Relic of the Shadow Palace is better for Myth is because of the blades, which is basically going to be really good in blade up strategies, especially when like you have to one-shot an opponent because comboing is going to be like way too slow. Say if you're versing a storm and you like really need to one-shot with like Mystic Colossus because they think that they're safe behind one shield, and you just like blade 4 times, the blades from the Morganth Amulet are really going to help in those scenarios. So ultimately I think the Relic is going to be your best bet. So if you don't have this, it's only like an extra level. Right now I'm level 102. You're probably going to be like 103 by the time you get to Morganth. As long as you stay under 105, in my opinion, you should be good to go for PvP. The Staff of the Twisted Mind is going to be the Mali Wand. Now, again, block, crit, both of these things are going to be really important, but block more importantly because it does 2 things instead of 1. It negates damage from that ×2, and it also gives you a decent chance of actually blocking a crit. So Mali Wand, in my opinion, is going to be your best bet 9 times out of 10 all around the board. I don't really foresee any pack wands except for maybe the Eye of the Soothsayer for Myth. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that pack is actually not in the Crown Shop anymore. I can't find it, and I forget what exactly it's called, but it's one of the Eye of the Soothsayer wands for level 100. If you have it on like any of your other like max characters, or maybe in your shared bank from when you popped those packs when it did come out, around the time that Darkmoor came out is when that pack came out. But those wands are pretty old, and I don't see the pack in the Crown Shop, but that would be the only other substitute for meta stats, because that gave damage. I believe it gave power pip as well, which is actually pretty decent, and it gave really good crit and block. I think only like 5 more block than the Mali Wand gives, but regardless, that is going to be the only other substitute. So Mali Wand is going to be meta, I think, all the way around the board for every school. But that's not a bad thing because this wand gives a lot of pierce. So you're honestly benefiting a lot from this. Other than that, the mount obviously again is subject to whatever you have available if you do have a stat mount, but that is going to be the complete gear rundown for what you want to run for meta gear in terms of after block update. All right, and now the moment you've all been waiting for, if you have been following up with any of the deck making controversy that's been surrounding my channel recently, because I like to pack enchants and hits in main deck. A lot of you are wondering, what is my main deck looking like? What is the deck that I'm about to recommend, people? Drum roll, please. Bam. This is going to be the deck that I am going to recommend and that I have been slapping people with. Myth is so good at Exalt. Originally, I thought that Myth was actual booty, but after I fixed my deck up, I started winning matchups that I didn't even think were like even possible. Like, I thought Death was just like far superior than Myth. My current opinion about the matchup, even Ice, is that it's actually doable. It's actually doable, but it's very hard, because obviously Death is super broken right now at Legend, and you can't really expect anything less at Exalt. It's just like a Super Saiyan Legend PvP, right? Exalted is, but this deck ultimately has won me very, very hard matches, and the only thing that I would actually change about this deck setup right now would be maybe to take out 1 Pierce, 1 Shift, if it's clogging your hand up that much. And then if you do not have the Troll Spellement, because obviously this is a pay-to-win thing, and it's Spellaments in them, like, in and of itself is just a ridiculous idea. But thankfully I did not have to use my own money to get this Troll Spellement. But it, you know, it's just ridiculous. But if you don't have this, then obviously your deck will be looking something like this. I would still, if you don't have the Troll Spellement, which 99% of you probably won't, I would put in an extra earthquake, and I would also put in, like, I don't know, maybe an extra weakness, maybe an extra set shield to ice, because ice is just really freaking broken. And last but not least, the treasure card setup for Exalted Myth is going to be looking exactly like this. Now, tower shields are pretty obvious. You're gonna want to have a lot in, because tower shields just save your life, and at Exalted you have a lot of pierce. So if you get put on the spot where a tower shield is going to save your life, then you want to have a lot in to be able to pull for that 55 tower. Other than that, the Athenas, they do a lot of damage. It's like pigs reminiscent damage, and you get that 35 tower shield. It's super busted. Basilisk does way too much damage if it's open with like a bubble and a blade. This thing does so much damage, dude. It's so unfair. Like the first hit alone with a bubble and a blade does like 1.5, and the overtime does like well over a K. It's so dumb. But you only want to use this if you have the open hit and at least a buff. It's not worth it if you don't have at least a buff, because it's just way too much. It's way too many pips, and there's really no combo potential with this. The 45 bubbles, I mean, it's just 45. Like, you put it up and then you win if they don't take it down. So this is pretty much the game. Celestial Calendar, I mean, it's 10 pips, does way too much damage. It's like a last resort type of deal if you have the open hit and like 2 blades, but you really can't like combo because your hand's not coming together, and then oh snap, I pull a Celestial Calendar. Well, might as well let it rip. And you crit with 2 blades and it's game. It's like, well, okay, well, it spells way stronger than I thought. Basically what Celestial Calendar is. Mystic Colossus, dude, this spell is so busted. It literally takes off a tower shield or a set shield, and listen, okay, this spell is so good. Like, it's actually brainless to use this spell, because if you don't know, Dream Shield, which I have a TC, I don't have it in main deck because I'd never trained into death, but the Myth Shield gets put on second. And for life set shields, Legend Shield also puts on the Myth Shield second. So if someone set shields or tower shields, regardless of what kind of shield it is, Mystic Colossus will always take it off and then hit. Because if you don't know, Pierce takes off the second shield or the last shield applied to a shielding spell. So the only way to counter this is if they're balanced and use the Spirit set shields. That is it. That is literally the only way to counter Mystic Colossus. Or if they tower shield twice, which you should never be letting somebody do that. If they tower shield, you should always be piercing from main deck. That's why I have 3 pierces in main deck. Also have wands in main deck. Or you should be using Rat Illusionist or Yellow Troll. It's so busted. 1 Aftershock, because Ices and Deaths love to blade. It's stupid. Do not let them blade unless like you have the upper hand at the moment. Keeper the Flame, like you can literally Keeper through a shield and then Mystic Colossus and then combos and does so much, because if they shield, Mystic will take off any sort of shield, any set shield, any tower. It's so busted. Pigs kills. A King Artorias is literally more powerful than a Basilisk through a tower shield, because it takes off a set shield or a tower and then hits. So dumb. Medusa, I have 3 in, because if the opportunity strikes and I can't pull a Medusa because I only have like 2 in, that's no good. So I have 3 in. Blade, self-explanatory. The Empower is really for fires that use the -90 E-free. It's so annoying, so I have this in. Never underestimate the fires with 90 E-free. It will always happen. The Feint is for if someone thinks that they're safe behind a set shield or a tower shield, but they're within Feint into Mystic Colossus killing range, because a Feint is 70 extra damage, dude. I literally just Feint and then Mystic Colossus. Sometimes they'll double shield, but then I'll just Yellow Troll, and then they'll shield again, and then I'll just, I don't know, wand or something, or Shrike at that point. And then the Mantle. When you're back into a corner, you want to at least have one of these, dude. Honestly, it can save your butt. Like, it's kind of BS in the end if the opponent does actually fizz, but it is what it is. But that is going to wrap up the gear and deck setup for Exalted Myth. If you guys have enjoyed, or if I have enticed you to make a Exalted Myth at all, please drop that hot like and subscribe. It's completely free, and you can always decide to unsubscribe later. We are on our way to 7K subscribers. I would really appreciate it if you would join the Ace Army in our quest for 7K subs. And with all that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.